Welcome to the Hockey Writers Prospect Corner, a show with our top prospects writing crew, bringing you the latest news, analysis, scouting reports, mocks, rankings, and much more. From the World Juniors to the NHL Draft floor, from the farm to the NHL, our team covers everything that happens in the world of prospects. So sit back, grab a notebook, and get ready for Prospect Corner.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Prospect Corner presented by the Hockey Writers. We are recording just minutes after the 2023 NHL Draft Lottery is wrapped up, so we're going to be sharing our early reactions. We haven't really talked much before recording here, to be honest. Our early reactions on the winners of the lottery, or winner. It seems a little more accurate at this point. And we're also going to do a quick mock draft at the end, just the top 6 picks or so, looking at some of the top prospects and the little bit of movement that we saw at the top of the draft. Not much. I'm your host, Logan Horn, and today I'm joined by my co-host and fellow prospect analyst, Matthew Zator and Peter Baracchini. Peter, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. It didn't seem like there was going to be that much suspense during the lottery until we got to the final 3 picks, and you knew something was probably going to happen because it was going so smoothly. There had to be a little bit of drama and suspense and everything, and then Chicago ends up winning the draft lottery. And obviously Anaheim had the best odds. The expectation was that they were going to win, but you know what? Chicago came on top.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that the best chance for any single order of the 1 to 16 is for everyone to stay at their most likely spot. Mm-hmm. But as it kept going on, I'm like, there's no way this is happening. Nobody's moving.
It was too good to be true.
Reason. Yeah. And it was in the end. But yeah, we'll get into it. Matt, how are you feeling after the draft lottery tonight?
The Canucks didn't win it. Didn't anticipate it. They stayed at 11. They didn't move down, which has happened in the past. But yeah, I mean, Anaheim now have missed out on 2 generational talents. When they had the draft lottery and they could have picked Sidney Crosby, they lost that and got Bobby Ryan instead. Bobby Ryan didn't really pan out as much as they thought he would. Chicago they're going to get Connor Bedard and basically lose Kane, retire or whatever. He's not retiring, but he's gone. And now they're just going to replace him with Bedard. Pretty good replacement, I think.
Not bad. Not bad at all. As you guys mentioned, Chicago Blackhawks won the first overall pick, and the Anaheim Ducks slid to 2nd overall, and the Columbus Blue Jackets to 3rd. I want to mention off the top, anyone out there that was watching live got to experience what we experienced, and everyone that was on Twitter at the time experienced. We're right before the commercial break when they cut off after... we know what teams are in the final 3 and they're about to cut off. Kevin Weeks is giving a little chat, a little sting at the end there to cut away to commercial. And he says something along the lines of, and with that, Chicago has moved up and Columbus has the 3rd overall pick. However, they had not announced. Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley had not announced that had happened. So he scooped him again, just like the trade deadline when Weeksy is just breaking announcements everywhere. He did it for the draft lottery, which no one expected, I don't think. So the whole commercial break, everyone on Twitter was kind of like, did Kevin Weeks just say what I think he said? Is Chicago moving up? Mm-hmm. And yeah, they were. So little bit of a mistake there. I'm sure we can talk about that snafu at some point. But I just want to get your thoughts on this win, on what it means for Chicago, what it means for the state of tanking in the NHL, all those kind of things. Any of your thoughts that come off the top of your head? Matt, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, I mean, tanking. Well, look what happened. Anaheim and Chicago, the 2 of the worst teams in the NHL, get 2 of the best prospects in this draft. Fantilli and Bedard, barring on some unforeseen earthquake, Bedard's going 1st overall to the Chicago Blackhawks and Adam Fantilli to the Anaheim Ducks. Unless Chicago goes and says, we want Fantilli because, Chicago's steal, they're right there, they got
a good look at him.
Watched him quite a bit, I would assume, when he was there. But I don't think so. I think Bedard's going Chicago. And then you got Anaheim right there next. Who are they going to pick? I mean, Fantilli's, and you could probably go, I don't know, but most likely it's those two. So, I mean, you got two of the best, and they're two of the worst teams. They're getting two of the best prospects. I mean, yeah, you can tank, and you'll probably get those guys. It's typically, you know, all the changes they've made to the lottery that, you know, you can't tank multiple years now.
That's a new rule, yeah.
Yeah, and the new rules.
You do it twice.
You could do it twice. You could do that. Have fun. And get two guys, but you can't do what the Edmonton Oilers did 3 years in a row. And I mean, didn't really work out for them because those three, I mean, Nugent Hopkins, it's turned out to be a pretty good player, but you know, Yakupov, no way. Taylor Hall was okay for a few years there, but not nearly to the point that they thought he was going to be. So tanking, in theory, still kind of works, I guess, but
yeah, they always try to de-incentivize it. But one of the probably the most blatant tank in the NHL since 2015 with the Buffalo Sabres racing for McDavid. I feel like Chicago was the least subtle tanking team we've seen since then.
Yeah.
And remember just a few short months ago when Gary Bettman, the NHL's commissioner, talks about
tanking.
How teams don't tank. Why would they do that? And then you kind of I think if you argue that the NHL Draft Lottery is rigged, I think that you need to go outside and you need to realize that the other NHL teams would not allow that to happen. They wouldn't just be okay.
No.
I was just about to say, take the tinfoil hat off kind of thing.
Basically, just chill out. Whoever wins it, people would say it was rigged. Even your favorite team, people would somehow argue that it's rigged. Crazy, right? Just because it's the team that a lot of people didn't want Bedard to go to doesn't mean that it's more rigged.
Yeah.
No. I mean, it still ended up going to one of the teams that had the highest odds. I mean, Chicago had the third best odds.
Third best odds.
Or
one of the top three. Yeah.
One of the top three to get it. So, I mean, you know, still one of the top three teams won it.
Yeah. It's the third most likely outcome. It's pretty likely.
Like a team got, you know, Chicago flew from the bottom with a 1% chance. Got it.
Like the Rangers did a couple times or something.
That was insane. But again, luck happens. I mean, it happens.
Yeah, it's random for a reason. Peter, I'll come to you here. What are your thoughts on the draft lottery, on Bedard's Chicago, thoughts on tanking the lottery, anything like that?
Nothing that affect it. Like, I mostly agree with Matt said too, and even you, Logan. It does seem like it was kind of written in the stars about the fact that, you know, Chicago's going through this rebuild. They traded away Kane. Taves wasn't coming back, and they needed to like jumpstart the rebuild or like have something go their way kind of thing. And this was that moment. I mean, they started it off last season in a good start with Kevin Krasinski and Frank Nazar as their top picks. Lucas Reichel still is basically on the verge of being a full-time player next season. So the youth movement is already happening. Obviously, getting Bedard is going to excel that process a little bit, but then again, there's still going to be years of pain because there's still some things that they need to iron out on the fence in net. I think that's going to be the big thing because what their goaltending situation is, they're still going to be at the bottom, but Bedard gives you hope for the future. It gives you hope that there's going to be another potential dynasty for this team down the line, and he could be a big factor, just like Taves was, centering the middle of the ice, or even if he goes onto the wing, Patrick Kane as well, because he can play both spots. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, but you know what? Again, like you said, like they had a top three like odds of landing him. It happened. If you're still, you could be angry. Yeah, I agree with both of you guys as well. If you could be angry, but at the same time, it's just like it happened. Can't do anything about that. I mean, but Bedard's going to be a Blackhawk. Simple as that. He's going to be dominating the league. I would have liked to have maybe seen him go to Columbus because, you know, have that parity of one Connor in the West, another Connor in the East, and not only that, the Blue Jackets haven't had one star player since Rick Nash. Maybe getting that generational player would have helped boost more of an attendance in the fan base as well. But overall, I mean, it did provide a little bit of excitement because it was getting a little bit bland of everybody staying in the same spot. So, having a little bit of drama actually is kind of good.
Yeah, absolutely. It did kind of feel like everything was going to stick to the same spots and it wasn't going to be very interesting or dramatic at all. So, I will say, like, absolutely, some of these other teams at the top would have been a ton of fun to see Bedard go to Vancouver. He's a big Vancouver fan. He's from there. Detroit, selfishly, I think would be pretty fun. Could have got to write about him for a long time. Some people argued for Washington, thinking that would be a pretty sweet situation. I think that would have been a lot of fun, at very least.
Bedard already feeding OV one-timers.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Primary assist on the...
And vice versa. That would have been fun.
Record-breaking goal or something.
It'd be fun. You could probably pick any team and he'll be fun playing.
Yeah. Looking at the Ducks, we've heard all year that Bedard and Mason McTavish are actually pretty good friends from their time playing for Team Canada at the World Juniors. And I remember Bedard mentioning that McTavish would send him texts every once in a while, updating him on the NHL standings, just being like, we're still at the bottom, which is pretty funny. So
you're saying there's a chance.
There were a lot of options, and Chicago was always one of them. Ever since Chicago decided, just about 2 years ago now, they decided that they were going to go all in. This feels like it was so long ago. It was not that long ago that they traded for Marc-Andre Fleury for nothing, because Vegas loves just spending right to the cap and then trading away good players for nothing. And they made the Seth Jones trade.
Yeah.
I think it's actually pretty funny that both parties of the Seth Jones trade were right near the top of this draft lottery. They made those moves thinking that it was going to give them another year or two with Kane and Taves and really competing for the cup again. Nothing really came of that. It fell the other way pretty quick. But then just about 10 months ago was when the Blackhawks traded away Kirby Dach and Alex DeBrincat in short order in the lead up to the 2022 draft. And as you guys mentioned, some of the great prospects they added there, Kevin Korchinski and Frank Nazar and Ryan Green, I think in the third round, who was like almost a point per game in college this year as a mid-round pick, which is wildly impressive. They've added a lot of great talent in a very short period of time. They've added even more draft capital since.
Yeah.
So they're in the very early stages of building a team, but this just like solves a massive problem for them. A massive question mark, maybe not a problem yet, because they were still just starting to figure stuff out. But, the question of who's going to be our top offensive player, that's not a question anymore. That's not a question for them for 15 years. Like, it's just not. It's over. That question has been answered. So now they can move on to other stuff. And they don't have the deepest prospect pool yet because they were trying to be good up until 2 years ago. But this will go a very long way. I'll be interested to see how their team looks next year, because they were trying to lose a lot this year. And I get the sense that'll happen again with Max Celebrini, some of the other top players, actually a good handful of defensemen in next year's draft at the top. At least as of now, lots changes, but
they could grab Cole Eiserman next year. And
they could get Eiserman. That would be scary, actually.
That's fun.
We can talk all we want about how it's hard to be excited for a team that has been so good for so long, but also a team that has been so covered in scandal over the last few years. It's really hard to feel it's really hard to feel excited for them or excited for the possibility of that team, because truly it will be a really fun team. I think it'll genuinely be a pretty good spot for them. It's just hard to cheer in any way for that organization yet, I think, with the Kyle Beach situation and the cover up for over a decade. It's pretty hard to avoid that. So I think that's why a lot of people feel a little mellow or a little upset about this draft lottery specifically. But that's not Bedard's fault.
No,
we don't want to take away some of the excitement of one of the best young players we've seen in the NHL ever, maybe. Genuinely one of the most exciting prospects in history. He deserves that excitement still. So it's going to be a ton of fun seeing him there. Genuinely. Lots of great players he's going to play with, and a lot more draft picks to come that they'll be able to build around him with. All right. Let's quickly take a look at second overall. So Anaheim fell to second. Not too bad of a fall, to be honest. There was pretty high chance that they fell to second or third. So falling just to second is pretty good because, as we've talked about a lot, this year is a bit of a, maybe not a two-horse race because Bedard is pretty clearly taken that top spot. But Adam Fantilli is not a consolation prize. He is an incredible prospect. We've talked before about how he would probably be the first overall pick in the last 2 or 3 drafts, at least. He probably had a better draft year than Juraj Slafkovsky. I'm trying to get the order right. Owen Power and Alexis Lafreniere. Definitely a better draft season than all those guys, in my opinion. I mean, Fantilli's been unreal, and we get a chance to watch him at the World Championship soon for Team Canada. So, Peter, I'll come to you here. What are your thoughts on the Anaheim Ducks at second overall? I mean, the assumption is that it's Fantilli. Who knows? Things can change. But what are your thoughts on them landing there and what it means for them trying to finally dig their way out?
Yeah, I mean, you look at their center depth and you already have Zegras and McTavish, but McTavish can play that left wing as well. So if you have to move him to the left wing and you have Fantilli as your second or even can overtake Zegras as the number 1, that's still pretty damn good if you ask me. I mean, that's pretty fun. I mean, we see the type of goals that, Trevor Zegras can score, the Michigans, the fancy hands, he has all that. But Adam Fantilli is literally the overall package that you want in a centerman. High octane offense, physicality. He uses that very well. His size to his advantage very well. Excuse me. Everything that he does is so crisp. Like, he can spot the lanes very well. He's got that high awareness within the offensive zone. Like, he's always in the right spot at the right time, drawing players in, opening the space up very well for other players. He's everything that you want. And obviously, maybe you want him to focus a little bit more on the attention to details to the defensive game. I mean, he does look pretty good on the defensive side. He can improve. But overall, he's exactly what you want. He can score. He can do it all offensively. And yeah, this is going to be a very fun pick for the Anaheim Ducks because, like you said, this is another player that can be first overall in any other draft in the past or even next year. If they you even had Celebrini or Yzerman as your 1-2, there's no doubt that Fantilli was going to be number 1 regardless. And Bedard would have been great, like you said, but like you said, Fantilli is no consolation prize at all. He is still a top tier, elite level player that any team would want in their system.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Anaheim had a painful year, no doubt. I think they ended this season on a 13-game losing streak, or in the NHL's mind, a 13-game winless streak. There was some overtime losses in there. Doesn't count as a losing streak, which is tough. That is a huge portion of your season, just right out the end, which is, impressive tanking, I guess you could say. But even before they had this pick, that center depth, as you said, was insane. Like Zegras, McTavish, and Nathan Gaucher, probably on his way to the NHL soon. Was bottom 6 guy, which is like a perfect role for him. Ideal role. And yeah, probably take Fantilli here. I think that's the easy choice and it's the right choice. And you could take your pick of who you want to move off to the wing. I know Zegras played a bit of time this year on the wing, on the top line. I'm not 100% sure what the reasoning behind that was, if it was something to do with defensive load or if it was skating. I'm not sure what their reasoning was. I mean, they're looking for a new head coach, so things can change. But imagine Fantilli just dominating on the puck, getting the puck through the zone, and just making space for Zegras to do all the insane things that he can do. That's just like a really fun forward group. And we've talked ad nauseum about the incredible defensive core that they're building there as well. Jamie Drysdale, Olen Zellweger, and you guys remember his name? Last year's draft. I have it over here.
Bentukov, Tyson Hines, Noah Warren, Tristan Luneau. Does the list go on?
Tyson Hines. Wow. It just keeps going. And man, that team is going to be good. As long as maybe John Gibson stays good for a couple years or gets good again. Who knows? Anyway, Matt, what are your thoughts on Anaheim at second here?
Ditto everything you guys just said. Basically, I mean, you know what? It didn't matter. Like I said at the beginning, it didn't. You get Bedard. I mean, you obviously Bedard's the big prize. You want him, but you don't get him. Fantilli is just like he said, just as great of a prize. I mean, yeah, Anaheim's okay. We don't get Bedard, but we get Fantilli. He's going to be a franchise guy too. And you know what? They already have, like you said, you have Zegras already there. You know, you add him to that group, and like you say, you either put Zegras on the wing, you have him at center, or you have Fantilli, Zegras, McTavish, or you put them on the same line. It's just so much fun that you can do with these guys.
Yeah, imagine that power play.
On the power play, just come on. I just hate it that Anaheim's in the Pacific Division because the Canucks already have to deal with Connor McDavid all the time. Now I have to deal with Fantilli. It was either going to be Fantilli or Bedard.
Yeah.
It could have been right there.
San Jose could have jumped up too, and you could have got both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Which
so
would have been,
be grateful, I guess.
So at least they're split between divisions now. But yeah, Anaheim, they're going to be a powerhouse. You know, back to when Getzlaf, Corey Perry, and their heyday, and their defense consisted of Scott Niedermayer, Chris Pronger, you know, those types. They're going to be just as good, maybe even better. I mean, so
started something special for sure. Like this is a special group they're building in Anaheim. And that's with us assuming who they're taking, but I feel pretty confident at this point. So do you guys, before we move on to a quick mock draft, do you guys have any other thoughts on the draft lottery? I'll mention quick that I had an article come out last week where I went over all of the draft lotteries since 2013, which was just the last decade's worth. Most of those were kind of the modern draft lottery with multiple lottery picks run. And I found that of all the teams that have never won a single lottery, Detroit had dropped the most spots, had the worst luck, dropped 8 total spots. Vancouver dropped 7 spots. And Arizona also dropped 7 spots. So looking at the draft list this year, the draft lottery, all those teams stayed put, which I'm sure the fan bases will agree is a win of some kind. That's a win. Like, I guarantee there are Canucks fans who are convinced when that card number 13 was flipping over that they were going to see the Orca, but they got lucky. They got 11th. And by lucky, I mean, like, you know, just okay. But that's a win for those teams. I also want to say that I understand the people complaining about this being rigged because it's been talked about by a lot of people, that if the NHL got to decide and actually rigged it, there's no one they would pick other than Chicago. I'm not saying it's rigged. We've talked about how that's kind of silly. But a huge American market team that is just at the end of their dynasty. They've lost those players. It looks like Taves is either going to retire or maybe move on and play somewhere else. Patrick Kane has moved on. And doesn't hurt that they're really bad at marketing their stars. So putting him in a big market will make that easier for the NHL, because Patrick Kane was huge in the early 2010s. Every young American player now says that they modeled their game after him. Jack Hughes, Trevor Zegras, all those guys. They talk about Kane as just this huge figure in American hockey. Obviously, Bedard is Canadian, but playing in Chicago, that big market, that recent history of success, that's probably going to be a real positive thing for the NHL in general, but it makes their job easier too, I'll mention. So Matt, do you have any other thoughts on the draft lottery? Not a lot of movement, so maybe not. But
no, I thought we weren't going to be able to talk about anything very interesting because everything was going like how it is. We've talked about this order before. We don't. So it was great that there was at least a little movement at the top. We could have something to talk about more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy, like, especially for, covering the Canucks, of how many times I've had to write articles about the Canucks dropping 3 or 4 spots. Now, the times they did, they were able to draft Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes, which not bad.
Not too bad.
It was okay
Yeah.
to drop in those cases. But yeah, in those cases, I think the Canucks won a lottery of some sort, because those 2 guys, Pettersson shouldn't have gone that low, even though it was 6th overall. I always mix up.
He went 4th.
4th. I always mix up Hughes and Pettersson's draft slot. But yeah,
sorry. He totally went 5th. Makar was 4th. My bad.
See. Okay. So
yeah, I'm getting it wrong too.
And then Hughes, arguably should have been drafted by your Detroit Red Wings there, and didn't. So that was, to me, a win. And so
I'm pretty sure the rumors have been all but confirmed that if Detroit had a different pick at that spot, they would have taken Evan Bouchard, so it wouldn't have even happened anyway. Never mind.
True.
Anyway.
But yeah, the lottery this year, I think it's good, and all those teams didn't move and drop or anything. They just stayed where they were, and yeah, you just move on.
Yeah.
And so the Canucks have the 11th pick, and I'm happy with it, because there's a lot of good players around there, and yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think the lottery in general, like we said, it is what it is, and it happens wherever you go, you go.
Yeah. As you mentioned, like, there's tons of great prospects in this draft. Once you get past that 4 or 5 prospect group, depending on how you see it, at the very top, I've seen people talk about the next tier of players being anywhere from like 4 or 5 guys, so taking you maybe to the end of the top 10, or taking it all the way to like 16th overall is that next tier, and all those guys can kind of just be interchangeably selected. It's going to be kind of all over the place on draft day, which should be a lot of fun for us, to be honest. Peter, do you have any other thoughts on the draft lottery here? I know you told us before we started recording that you were just really bummed that Toronto didn't win the lottery. Sorry.
Yeah, complete disappointment, utter shame. NHL's got to fix the lottery system again. Nah, I'm just joking. I'm being realistic. There's no way they were winning it. They had the 28th pick that can get moved up, but who knows? But overall, I'm curious to see what's going to happen with a few teams. Obviously, the Detroit Red Wings, they got 2 picks in the first round, I believe, and one of them is a top 10. Are they going to go off the board again like they did in the past? Mo Seider, Marco Kasper. Can they do the same again? Are they going to take, David Reinbacher? I can't remember what their right side of defense is like, but
pretty tough.
Pretty tough, yeah.
Pretty tough. Okay, so then chances are maybe they could take a swing on a forward that's really high up that they think that they have high upside on. And the other one is going to be the Washington Capitals. We have never seen. It's been a really long time since we've seen them in the lottery or even in a top 10 spot. But you can guarantee that if he does drop, they are going to take Matvei Michkov. Literally, that is going to be a pick that is destiny written in the stars kind of thing, with the, changing of the guard of Ovi, still chasing down Gretzky, but then passing it off to Michkov kind of thing. It's going to be interesting. I really do think that there's going to be a lot of movement, a lot of uncertainty past that, because with his contract situation, but he does want to iterate that he does want to play in the NHL. So that's going to be big for teams. If he does fall, he shouldn't fall out of the top 10. And, there's going to be a team or even Philadelphia can try and take him when he falls. But yeah, I think those 2 teams, I'm going to be interested to see. Detroit continuing their trend of, just off the board picks, but working out in the long run, or Washington taking Michkov, because they even took Miroshnichenko in last year's draft as well. So they like goal scorers. Why not take one to Michkov?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious. We always talk about it, and it almost never happens. But I'm curious if we'll see any trading up in the draft. I feel like there's more teams than usual with a very large amount of picks in the top, maybe 45. Like you've got Arizona picking 6th and 12th with Ottawa's pick. And most likely they're sticking to those picks and just continuing to build their team. But they could move. Detroit has multiple picks. Montreal, if Florida somehow falls apart and that pick stays at 17th, then they've got multiple picks. Chicago, Columbus, San Jose, St. Louis, even. It's almost impossible to trade up into the top 10 in the modern NHL. It just does not happen. But if you look back just a couple of years, the Red Wings trading up in the first round to take Sebastian Cossa, right in the middle. So I'm sure there'll be plenty of people talking about it at the Hockey Writers, but Detroit, their pick is currently 18th. If Florida wins their series and goes to the conference finals, so Detroit's pick is 17th. And they have 3 second rounders, 40th, 41st, and 42nd overall. So package one of those and the 17th overall pick, and you can probably find a team in the 12 to 15 range that would be willing to make a move. Quality over quantity type argument. If there's a player that they're really into that's falling. Lots of teams have those opportunities though. So hopefully that happens a little bit because that's always fun on draft day. All right. We're going to cut over now to a quick mock draft. We're just going to do the top 6, just looking at all these top prospects, the very top guys, and then maybe one wild card at the end. Who knows who Matt will pick there. But I'll kick us off and make the really exciting one that everyone's been waiting for. First overall is Chicago Blackhawks, and they're taking Connor Bedard because there's no other right answer. I mean, you know what? Maybe Adam Fantilli goes to the World Championships and scores like 20 points in like 10 games for Canada. And then we're thinking about it a little bit, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's Bedard all the way. He's going to be in the NHL next year, probably a top 6 center. Don't know if that's what's best for him, but it's definitely better for him than going back to junior and scoring 300 points. This isn't the 80s. We need him in the NHL. So that's the easiest pick of this whole thing. Chicago, done. So second is the Anaheim Ducks, and Peter, you'll be picking for them.
Yeah, second easiest pick of this draft, Adam Fantilli. I mean, like you said, it's just as easy. I mean, it's like you said, he can possibly go over and tear it up in the Worlds, like we've seen with other, draft eligible players. We saw Austin Matthews and Patrick Laine duke it out back in 2016. We even saw Owen Power, get more minutes as the tournament went on, and they won gold that year, I believe. So it's not out of the ordinary to suggest that Adam Fantilli could improve his stock even more. Although Bedard is going first overall, he could still, say, hey, don't forget about me. I'm just as good.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's very unlikely he goes first overall, but he could just make people even more excited about him at second. So Anaheim fans, stay tuned to the World Championships. Absolutely. Matt, you're picking third here for the Columbus Blue Jackets.
All right. Well, this is where I could change things. I mean, Columbus has quite a few options that they could look at here. They need centermen. They need a top line center. So they are going to go with Swedish centerman Leo Carlsson because he is the more NHL ready centerman that is left now on this draft board. Now, Will Smith potentially could have been a pick here too, but Columbus is going to go with Leo Carlsson. Again, the European connection. Kalkalainen loves his, he does pick a lot of these European prospects, and he would fit in probably within the next, I don't know. I mean, Carlsson could come over next season. Who knows? We'll see. But I think Columbus would do well going for Leo Carlsson here. Is he in the World Championships?
He is.
Believe he is going.
Yeah, because I know I've seen clips of him playing with Lucas Raymond, and
Jonathan Berggren.
Jonathan. Yeah, so we'll see how Carlsson does there, but Columbus is going to go with Carlsson at third overall.
Nice. So at fourth overall is the San Jose Sharks. I'll pick for them, and this one I'm going back and forth on. I've been going back and forth on it since you said Carlsson. I'm going to go with Matvei Michkov at fourth for San Jose. I am a Michkov truther. And I think that he is closer to second overall than he is to third overall, or fourth or fifth or 10th. I don't think he'll go fourth, but I genuinely believe he has a claim as the second best player in this draft. There's more question marks, no doubt. Fantilli is the person I would take second just because he's a much more of a sure thing, more of an NHL type player that you can just easily see succeeding in the NHL. But Michkov is on a level that we rarely see. And also, it feels like San Jose is not ready to be good. And so it doesn't matter that he's not going to be here for a few years. They can maybe move Erik Karlsson this summer, retain a bunch of the salary. And even though they're just going to be eating like 4.5 million or 5 million or something for the next however many million years are left on his contract, it won't affect them too bad because they won't be competing in those years. And that means that they're going to be the same team next year as this year. Try for a lottery win. Max Celebrini, Cole Yzerman. There's plenty of great players in the next few drafts as well. Michael Misa, Gavin McKenna, whoever you want to look at coming down the line. James Hagens. I think he lets them keep being bad for a little while. And when he comes over, I don't know, instantly like the second or third best player San Jose's ever had, probably, if everything goes pretty well. So I've got Michkov going fourth to the Sharks. So Peter, once again, we have you picking for Montreal. Fifth overall is the Montreal Canadiens. Pretty sweet spot for them, considering they were, at the start of the year, looked like they might be a little competitive. I'm sure fans would have liked that season ending out that way, but this is a pretty positive result as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And they're going to take Will Smith, just absolutely dynamic at that U18 tournament. And you don't want to base it off just one tournament, but he's been dynamite all season long. And the skill set and the creativity and the offensive vision that he has matches that of the direction that they kind of want to go. Obviously, you have Nick Suzuki manning that first center spot, but he can easily jump in as that second center. You have Owen Beck possibly as your third, and you already have the center depth of Monahan still up in the air, but Kirby Dach seemed to try and have a bounce back season. And you got a lot of options right now or not necessarily options, but you're set down the middle if you take Smith with Suzuki and Smith at number one, because both are very creative and crafty with the puck. And obviously the wings are kind of set, although, if Michkov falls, you have to wonder if Montreal tries to take Michkov as well to go along with Cole Caulfield, Juraj Slafkovsky, all those players as well. So a lot of options, but if they're there and they see a centerman, they're probably going to take that to try and fill out that depth.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like we were talking about with Anaheim, I guess also could have said it about Columbus, but Montreal's got a really exciting young group, and getting one of these five players, almost certainly one of these five, is going to be huge, especially like you said, if it means they can just basically solve their center depth. Just no problem anymore. All done. So the last pick we're going to have here for today, Matt, we've got you picking 6 for the Arizona Coyotes. Who do you have the Coyotes taking? This is where it just opens up. There are 10 names you could say here, and I'd be like, I can see it. So good luck.
All right. Well, I am going to go, because of Arizona, they traded Chychrun. They need defensemen. I'm going to go with David Reinbacher going this high. I mean, he has raised his stock quite a bit. So Arizona Coyotes going to choose David Reinbacher at 6th overall to possibly lead their defense. They already have great center depth with Logan Cooley leading the way there. Dylan Genther, all those guys. And Reinbacher, their defense is suspect now. They don't really have they don't have huge prospects on defense. So I'm going to go with Reinbacher here. Like I said, it opens up. They could have picked a bunch of guys here. They got a lot of center, there's some centermen they could pick. There's some wingers. But at this point, I'm going to go with Reinbacher.
Yeah, totally fair. I mean, it feels like probably the biggest piece their biggest need is on defense for sure. You look at that group and it's pretty tough on D, and they've got tons of exciting forward prospects. So definitely a spot they need. And I'd be shocked if they didn't use at least one of their first rounders on a defenseman. And just the fact that they're so scarce at the top of the first round, maybe 3 or 4 guys going in the first round, maybe in the top 25, only 3 or 4. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him going pretty quick there. All right. So we'll have another mock draft come in, like a full episode mock draft pretty soon with much more detail and a lot more picks made. We just wanted to take a quick look at some of the top guys and where they might land now that we know the draft order for the top 16, which is wild. And still lots of movement to go in the bottom 16 of the first round, with Florida at 17th, possibly jumping all the way to 29th and bumping every team up one, which would be just insane. Sorry, Peter. I still think it'd be really funny. Also, it'd help a lot of other teams out. It'd help a lot of teams. So thank you for your sacrifice, Peter.
It's what I do.
Yeah, no problem. All right, but that is all we're gonna do for tonight. Actually, let's just go for one quick. Let's do our prospects of the week. Just on the spot here. It's usually how we like to wrap up our shows. Just a prospect that we want to talk about. So, Peter, I'll come to you first here. Do you have a prospect of the week this week?
Yeah, I am going to go to the London Knights, who are in the OHL championship, and I'm going to pick Denver Barkey. And I'm pretty sure we've talked about him briefly a little bit on here, but in the playoffs right now, he's looking very fantastic. 21 points in 15 games. Sorry, a little bit of a discombobulated there with the numbers, but looking at the production himself, like in the playoffs right now, I believe there were only 3 games where he went pointless, and that is saying a lot for someone that's very low in the rankings that wants to try and improve his draft stock. And even in the series against Sarnia, went pointless once, and I believe had 8 points in that series. So very telling. 2, 4, 6. Yeah, I 8. I don't know why I needed to count out there, but again, I'm not so good with the math about that, but I wanted to make sure I was accurate. So there you go. Yeah, I really like the skill set that he brings: the hands, the transitional play, the ability to produce every single time. Even when he doesn't, he's still making an impact regardless. And I think this is a player that's going to really improve his stock, and he's had a very good impact on the Knights' playoff run.
Yeah, absolutely. Barkey's been a ton of fun to watch this year, and it's nice to see him finishing real strong. Matt, do you have a prospect of the week? Who do you got this week?
Well, I'm going to depart from the Canucks prospects on this one.
Oh, okay.
And you briefly said his name, and we were talking about the Anaheim Ducks, and that's Olen Zellweger. And he is having insane, like he had an insane season, 52 points. Well, this is with the Kamloops Blazers. But overall, I have to do math, but in the playoffs, he had 29 points in 13 games, and in the regular season with the Blazers, 52 points, and then 28 points for the Silvertips. So add that up. That's like what? Over 80 points?
A lot.
It's a lot of points.
People don't come here for math.
So it's a lot of points for a defenseman. And Zellweger just continues to impress. I mean, he was insane. Why he jumped to that early second round. We know what he did with Team Canada and led that defense at the World Juniors there, and then went back to junior and dominated there, and he's dominating again this season. He dominated with the Blazers. Off the top of my head, I don't know where the Blazers are. If they are I know they're the Memorial Cup hosts, so they are in the Memorial Cup.
They're in the Memorial Cup no matter what.
What, wherever they are. I'm just gonna quickly check so I know I am accurate. But regardless, they're not in the final. They got kicked out in the 3rd round by the Seattle Thunderbirds. So but they will be in the Memorial Cup and Olen Zellweger will probably be a big part of it. So he's just been insane, and that just adds to the Ducks already crazy defense that they already got on prospects. So Olen Zellweger, my prospect of the week.
Nice. That's a great pick. I can't wait till he gets to the NHL. He's just gonna be so much fun to watch on a much more regular basis. My prospect of the week, it was just announced on Monday today for us. Mackie Samoskevich, Florida Panthers prospect from the 2021 draft was signed to his ELC. He had just an insane year for the University of Michigan. Definitely underappreciated, considering his teammates, Luke Hughes and Adam Fantilli, as well as Gavin Brindley, Seamus Casey, Dylan Duke, Rutger McGroarty, all these excellent prospects. But Samoskevich had 43 points in 39 games, and was a real driver on offense. Spent a good amount of time away from Fantilli and was still really productive. He's got excellent hands, really great vision for playmaking, and just constantly scanning. So he always knows where his teammates and his opponents are. Really smart player. Just a really skilled winger that I think could be a lot of fun to watch in Florida there with some of the other talent they've got up front. Kachuk, Verhaeghe, Barkov, those guys. And I wouldn't be shocked to see him make the team out of camp. After the NCAA season finished, he went to the Charlotte Checkers in the AHL. And in 2 regular season games, he had 2 points. And in 7 playoff games, he had 4 points. All those are assists, but 6 points in 9 AHL games is not bad at all. Not bad at all for a 21-year-old. No, 20. He's 20 until November. So still real young. Shown a lot this year that he can be a leader. 14 more points this season than he had last year, a 14-point improvement from his rookie season, which is really impressive, and a much bigger role now that like Beniers and Power all left the team. So Samoskevich is my prospect of the week. I'm very excited for him. I think he'll be a fun one to watch next year.
I want to correct myself. I'm looking at, they are not kicked from the playoffs yet. The Kamloops Blazers are still in their series with the Thunderbirds. The Thunderbirds are up 3-2 in the series going into game 6, which is happening tonight. So
maybe by the time you're listening to this, they're out of the playoffs. And
they may be out. I may be incorrect.
Either it's game 7 or it's over already.
But they are not out as of right now.
Not quite yet. Gotcha. Okay, well, we'll have to update on that next week. Well, that does it for us this week. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Prospect Corner. Make sure you subscribe to the Hockey Writers YouTube channel to make sure you don't miss any of our other episodes. Also, make sure you check out our site, thehockeywriters.com, for tons of draft content in the last, I think it's 51 days until the first round of the draft, first 32 picks. All right. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Matt, for joining me as we unpack the NHL Draft Lottery 2023. And thank you all for watching this week's episode of Prospect Corner. We'll see you all next time.